insidious tyranny, government cover-ups, outright lies and blind deceptions, enemies of the state, corruption at the highest levels, alien deceptions, flat earth conspiracies, wars and rumors of wars. We will stand our ground with the truth. Come join me on www.kdov.us for the latest in ground-shaking news and Bible prophecy. Greetings. Hello, my name is Mars, and I am host of the Watchers Prophecy News on KDOV Radio. We are America's best Christian radio station. Greetings wherever you may be. I am no man but me, not a clone, I'm not a zombie, nor a fool to come here tonight and expressly enlighten you to the very deepest truths. We are a private social media think tank of the most elite thinkers on the end times ever. Tonight on KDOV Radio, and as always, I do Conspiracy Radio. Our 19-year-old society may be found under the search term Watchers Society. So go on Facebook and look for the Watchers. You're going to find us. Want to again welcome you to KDOV Radio, and let's start with some of the far out news, because I have something very special for you tonight, and we're going to get to that. Now, reports are now circulating that Mexican drug lord Jonathan Guzman, El Chapo, is offering a $100,000 bounty for anyone who can bring him Donald Trump either dead or alive. Mexico's billion-dollar drug lord has been gloating all over social media about his escape, his newest escape, from a maximum security jail by taunting authorities and threatening the U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump, who's now president-elect. Now, according to informants close to El Chapo, the drug lord was offended by many of the things concerning Donald Trump's wall and various other racist allegations, and he believes that it is the wrong thing to do to divide the United States and Mexico, as it would stifle his drug traffic. Bounty was set for weeks prior to El Chapo's escape with the help of other members of the Mexican cartel. According to fellow inmates, El Chapo was very vocal about his hatred for Trump, citing that El Chapo often spoke about murdering Trump himself and found pleasure in masterminding such an assassination in front of the entire world's eyes. Thankfully, we do not have a weak president anymore that will go cower to threats. Donald Trump spent several weeks back indicating that El Chapo embodies everything that is wrong with Mexico, and that he should, Chapo, be recaptured, use him and his drug money to pay for the wall. This, of course, is fueling the fire between the two, causing such a massive uproar in Mexico. We have a little other news. The electing of Trump for president was a reset for those that prayed for our country. We discussed that in our last show. Now, I believe that that is a positive, good reset. It's for those of us Americans who seen what a nation or what war we would currently be in if Hillary was elected. But still, the signs of the times are still all around us, and the decay of our nation is becoming more and more evident. We've got to fight this stuff, folks. As an example, California today, folks were smoking pot up and down busy sidewalks in Los Angeles, right in front of the police and police service building, in parks and in other public areas, in celebration of the legalization of pot there in their state. While no one seemed to even notice that right now, that you can't buy any kind of ammo in the entire state of California without a very thorough background check, this trade-off was not very good. The world in so many ways is being dumbed down, it's not even believable. Even in Denver, voters approved Proposition 300 on the same day that the nation's largest state of California, 2 others legalized pot for all adults, and 5 more states approved pot for sick people, signs of society's increasing tolerance for the drug. It's the sensible thing to do, said Emmett Rostover, a Denver marijuana consultant and campaign manager for the Pot in Bars measure. It is about personal responsibility and respecting adults who want to have a place to enjoy cannabis. Man, that sounds like something right out of the Bible about Sodom and Gomorrah. I could almost transpose all that. Denver's measure takes effect immediately, but it has a lot of issues. Interested bars and restaurants would have to show they have neighborhood support before getting a license to allow open marijuana use. In addition, patrons would have to bring their own weed to comply with state law, banning the sale of both pot and food and drink at a single location. So they would have to give up one of the 3 in order to do such. Patrons are participating at these precipitating bars could use the pot inside as long as it isn't smoked. They could eat those gummies. The law does provide for the possibility of smoking outside smoking areas under very restrictive circumstances. Law also allows for non-service establishments such as yoga galleries or art galleries to set up pot smoking areas or hold huge pot smoking events serving both pot, food, and drink, probably at the local parks. All right, we're going to switch gears and get to our main topic tonight. And folks, I do have to warn you, this is quite upsetting because we are entering a time of near to full disclosure about aliens and UFOs. And tonight, that's what we're going to be talking about. So get ready, grab some duct tape, some zip ties, whatever you need, and sit back because this is going to wow you indeed. Now, I've told many folks about this great deception coming, and the synagogue war that I believe will come upon us, as Zechariah described as a thief in the night, that is going to, at some point, to be nuclear war between the superpowers, and that it will be indeed in the form of a Russian sneak attack, modern-day Pearl Harbor, that will in fact be part of the judgment of nations and the start of the Great Tribulation. Many agree with me, and I believe the Bible does as well. I've told you about the fighting in Mosul and the dam there, wire to blow, as the Russians are moving, and when ISIS becomes totally lost without a hope, a plan on such a detonation of the dam will leave millions of folks under 65 feet of water. I've told you this. It was very likely the water breaking for the birth of the end of the birth pains and the start of things very dire. No, it's going to involve a little bit of water. The Russians have sent a fleet there off the coast of Syria now to help the bombardment of the city, but I think since the election of President Trump that the Lord God may have indeed given us a reprieve. But don't just yet let your guard down. Now, I've explained about the demonic plans of the fallen ones to mimic real ancient astronauts, and the plan to come back as the savior of all mankind, installing a one-world government and a false prophet. I can't be alone in this. The very mission of the Lucifer telescope, for example, is based upon this very premise. I've explained my views in previous shows that you can find on YouTube under Mars Hoffman and the Watchers Prophecy News about the intentions of the globalists to reduce the population and the timing for them to usher in the greatest grand deception the world has ever seen. Even such a supernatural deception so vast that even the most elect would be deceived. Well, the conspiracy only deepens, my friends, and we're going to get to this. You see, just days after the shocking United States presidential election, Secretary of State John Kerry became the highest ranking, or at least known highest ranking, U.S. government official to ever set foot on the continent of Antarctica. Although there are rumors that President Obama made a secret visit there earlier this year. This visit came just a few weeks after WikiLeaks released a large set of photos from Antarctica. Does this mean that there is a worldwide cover-up of UFOs in Antarctica? Well, let's see how some people have connected the dots to reach that theory, like myself. Now, after landing on the Pegasus ice runway at the USS McMurdo Station, Kerry toured by helicopter the McMurdo dry valleys and was gone for many hours. Unexplained hours. We're going to get to that. Which are considered to be close to the environment of Mars as any place on Earth. I don't know if this is a coincidence for a Mars trip. But he also saw the mysterious red glacier known as Blood Falls and the hut where the famous Antarctic explorer Ernest Shackleton, the Shackleton crater on the moon is named for him. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but they keep tying Antarctica to space. We're about to find out. Now, Kerry got to indeed see things that are banned from the public view due to the newly signed October 28th, 2016 agreement to make the Ross Sea the world's largest marine protected area, blocking ships without permission from a world government, from the United Nations, from entering the area for 35 years. If you check the entire document, there is an amendment to that, and it is top secret for only, quote, heads of state. Wonder what that contains. Wouldn't you like to know what's in that and why? We're going to get to that too. But if you keep reading it, it pertains to the entire continent of Antarctica. The Ross Sea was only the cover story. This gets really deep. Fortunately, WikiLeaks mysteriously released a set of 23 photographs of various locations in Antarctica on October 18th as part of its John Pacetta-related links. Remember those? Remember? I told you about them on the Watcher's Prophecy News, where Hillary and Pacetta discussed full disclosure, with John saying to her that we should really just tell them areas that weren't marked out in black. I let that out a few shows ago when it happened. They seem to be more scenic than exposed, although one appears to show a UFO and another a mysterious fog, although both of those are grainy, and a couple are suspected to be from someplace other than Antarctica. I do not know. And several in numbered sequence are just missing, of course. Now, the subsequent painstaking investigation came to no firm conclusions as far as I'm concerned. The United Nations, in conjunction with the big powers, Russia, America, England, etc., got involved and declared the Antarctic conveniently off limits to all civilian overflights. In other words, if you had $1 million and rented a plane to take you over the Antarctic, they can't do it. It's now against world law. You can be prosecuted at The Hague. This was to include satellite recon, drone recon, as well as any private or corporation worldwide, now making the entire continent off limits to all humans but the ones in the know. This was indeed the truth from my highest military contact, and both Putin's and Obama's has signed off on this. In the era of Cold War, almost no cooperation between the major superpowers. I find it very shocking, yet totally and completely verified. This has went down, and Antarctica now is off limits to Earthlings. And why, you may ask? Because of the new findings that have been released by WikiLeaks and the UFO files from everywhere from Great Britain and elsewhere have been in recent questions. So I decided to check into this and see if it was Kerry really going down there to investigate climate change, or if indeed as claiming something far more sinister. But what I found out is beyond shocking, and has led me to a vast conspiracy that drives deep into both skull and bones and some of the most fantastic UFO information I have yet to encounter that I have been able to verify. Disclosure's coming. Kerry says the official cover story is climate change. However, if that was the case, why did he take a man who seemingly has no name or no real identification with him, and who wasn't even from the United States, all reported on the trip by many photos, and trying to get names and identities of this man who seemingly has no name? From my own contacts who I've showed these photos to, claim this man is indeed from the British Ministry of Defense and a high-level engineer, that's right, who worked on back engineering UFOs. Really? So he went with Kerry to Antarctica? I wonder why. His identity is still, however, classified, and why he would be with John Kerry on this visit to Antarctica only deepens the story. How do I know? Well, I have a source deep in this, and I'm telling you this is for real. In fact, this engineer was positively identified, yet his dossier remains highly classified. They know who he is. They tell me they know who he is, but nobody else is allowed to know. Now on to Hackle McMahon, a name you may have heard before. He is listed as an aide from the U.S. State Department. Also, eyed in the picture, a Democrat for certain, but my source says he is also a CIA plant and works deeply for the agency. His working location is listed as top secret, but my contact says he works at both Westinghouse and, alternatively, Area 51. Now, I say that's a pretty high-level job. When the pilots of the plane taking Kerry to the area, along with the reporter who was not allowed himself to take pictures, but was instead given fully developed 35mm ready to publish pictures of the frozen lake area and a few seagulls, come to find out this pilot also works for the CIA and has above top secret clearance. Not only did he fly the plane, but also piloted the helicopter on the little excursion that he took with John Kerry. Very juicy. That never happens. On the way from Christchurch, New Zealand, just after the quake, all hurried to the plane for a fast takeoff. Also included were 4 other Democratic aides to various Congress and senators who were to report back on the climate change findings. Those were the dummies in the group. Yet none were allowed past the station's nice amenities and lodgings for military personnel and high-level guests. They never got off the station. They didn't get to go with John Kerry on the helicopter flight. All right, next, let's get into the climate change cover story, because you have to see the deception to understand the truth. Now, we know that the climate change story is not true at all. There are multiple scientific expeditions that have gone to Antarctica. This was confirmed in an interview with many years back with even the likes of Admiral Richard Byrd. I'm sure everyone in history remembers that name. Said that the region would become the center of scientific inquiry directly after World War II, as there were things there that this world was not ready to see. That was right out of the mouth of Richard Byrd. The Byrd was promoted to Rear Admiral that very week. I looked it up. And given a top secret or better clearance, and that's when the U.S. military got deeply involved. They sent a U.S. destroyer and U.S. Navy SEALs to the location where Byrd told them the government, a mysterious base and craft were seen sticking out of the ice an ice cave, and that Byrd believed that this was linked to the Nazis. That's what Byrd believed, and their so-called secret base there. However, the building described could not have been built by the Nazis, and it glimmered with an astonishing glow, according to what was released and later recanted by FOIA disclosure that was only released in part, filed by none other than Eric von Daniken himself some 24 years ago. Oh, it gets deep. Now, due to the fact that prior to Kerry's visit to Antarctica, WikiLeaks released on October 18th, 2016, these 23 images of Antarctica, I've come to the conclusion that all these visits are intended in limiting investigation into Antarctica's secrets from the deep, dark past. All right, let's shift gears and add to this I had to do some digging to find out the truth about what's going on and why Kerry rushed to get down there. It was a spur-of-the-moment trip, and since this operation, the government has gone to great lengths to cover this all up and mislead everyone, providing so many various cover stories to make it all look like some great grand conspiracy story that no one in their right mind would believe. But see, here at the WPN, we are relentless. I am relentless. And we have sources, and we have dug very deep on this one. Because when I get to the scoop, you're going to know that I have found out the truth. Now, this is the real scoop, so you hang on to your children. Don't let the UFO conspiracy man on the radio get you. First of all, I urge you right now, I'm going to give you a whole second. Go get a pencil and paper, get on your computer, get a notepad on your phone, do whatever you got to, so I want you to take down some numbers. Come on, get with it, get a piece of paper. Now, if you go do a search on Google Map, here's the direction. I criticize a lot of people, talk about Naruto and other things, and they say, well, you never give me the right angle and declination of where this thing is at, and because you won't provide the numbers, it's fake. Y'all provide all these grainy pictures, all these good-looking pictures, but it's always fake because nobody will tell you where it's at. Well, I'm going to tell you where what we have seen currently is at, and I'm going to give you the numbers. I want you to look. Now, -70.203986, comma, 87.939948. The azimuth is 70 degrees, 10 minutes, 54.10 degrees zenith, longitude 87 degrees, 56 minutes, 28.390. Now there is a still blurred, and it says NASA owns the rights. That's what it says, that Google Earth has this little spot black completely out in Antarctica, and it says NASA owns the rights. I've got more coordinates later for you because there's other things I want you to see down there. From our highest level source, and all he was able to find out and divulge that was not classified material, the secret alien base structure described in exacting detail by Admiral Byrd, including the entrance and exits, are real. Though he did not believe it was the Nazis' former UFO base, he was later convinced of that, as that was a government cover-up to mask and throw humor and suspicion into the real finding there. The NSA are in control of it now, and the facility is codenamed Base 211. Write that down. I want you to look all this stuff up because you're going to dig deep into Base 211 and find out exactly what's there. I want you to do that. I urge all of you to go look. And it's not what it seems, but it is the very place that John Kerry went this last week. And for what reason, something indeed sinister is going on there right now as we speak. Something has been, according to what I've been able to glean from unofficial sources, as, quote, something coming to life. Shocking? You got that right. You heard it here first on the Watchers Prophecy News. So when those things happen, let's find out. Many of us devoted watchers will examine almost anything to see the questions and find the answers to the most mysterious mysteries yet ever uncovered, and this may just have been one of them. In fact, this week, Donald Trump, President-elect, was given a full 5-hour brief on all USA secrets, including aliens and the information about what's going on down in Antarctica. How do I know this? Let's say a little bird told me, and you need to check me out and see if I know what I'm talking about. Most people who listen to the Watchers Prophecy News know that they have heard me tell things that always happen. I check my sources good. I check my information better. And the reality is something is going on down there. And according to my unofficial sources, something is coming to life. Really? Well, I've done some heavy-duty research, and I know what's going down, so it's by some of the very best people on earth. Now, wait, there's more. This is the shocking part to make my sources on point. You don't have to agree with me, the Russians, or all else that the area is off limits for 35 years just because some ice is melting when current forecasts are calling the area summertime. It is summertime. The seasons are reversed to the south of the equator, but more important is what Kerry could have seen. So let's get into what he could have seen for a whole minute. Now, on Google Earth, one can find two large entrances that extend below the Antarctic surface in ice near the coastline. For some observers, they are natural caverns formed over time by the intense Antarctic weather conditions, but not so. According to Dr. Scott Warning, owner of the popular UFO sightings blog, I contacted his aides this week and I found out new information about John Kerry's visit and just where the helicopter that took them on their little excursion may have landed. In a post release yesterday, Dr. Warning claimed that they may be entrances to an alien base or a secret facility of some kind. His contacts in the CIA assured him that this was the area in question. My military contacts also told me the same thing, and that he made a video of his findings to be found on YouTube. He highlighted this video containing these close-ups of the two large entrances. In the video, there is also an image of what Warren believes to be a huge saucer-shaped object buried under melting ice near Antarctica. While there is no such Google Earth image available of the mysterious buried UFO, the K-base entrances are available for independent analysis as they have been saved by many UFO researchers, and they do exist untouched. If the latter are indeed entrances to the underground bases, then it would appear that claims that UFOs do have bases in Antarctica with the FOIA papers and reports that I have, the declassified info from Admiral Byrd, and this most recent trip there by world leaders, including the Russians, by the way, is indeed something real, something significant of a find, and something for real is happening at that location. Now, I'm going to give you some more numbers. Get your pen handy. These entrances are available for independent confirmation at the following Google Earth coordinates. I'm just going to read the numbers. You write all this down. -6636 12.58, comma, plus 99 43 12.72, and -66 36 12.58 plus 99 4312.72. Now, these images I've looked at. They show entrances to the rocky underground. The first is approximately 30 meters high and 90 meters across. It's undeniable. Video also shows a UFO alleged found by Google Earth, but it is claimed that the image was removed and no longer available, according to Waring on his UFO blog post. Very interesting and intriguing images from Google Earth, which seem to show two possible entrances to this alien base, or at least an entrance to something, and a huge saucer-shaped object buried in the ice. It indeed looks like a giant ice cutter has indeed cut a giant hole in the ice. This hole reminds me of many of the tunnels they dig underground in modern-day America. There are alien bases in the Antarctic. I would follow that. There are definitely ET craft. They're also of some kind, or they wouldn't be putting this much of a smoke screen up for the American public. This UFO, as mentioned earlier, is no longer available for independent confirmation. There is no independent confirmation that the UFO is genuine. These coordinates given earlier are flushed out now by Google Earth, with the highest authority doing such. Nevertheless, the two entrances are clearly genuine and immediately raise the question over their artificiality, because they don't look artificial to me. Now, according to Hennard's YouTube video, one of the entrances looks as though it has a metal canopy or dome covering it. Now, this was also mentioned in the set of emails. This dome is exact word for word. It's described also, this is two independent confirmations by Admiral Byrd, and matches the location and findings of the WPN for the helicopter flight that John Kerry took off from. As witnesses reported at the station, reported the chopper headed off to the south and southwest. That would place them just about at that location. Now, the dome of metal does shimmer, just as Byrd said it did, and this suggests that it is artificial. So if one of the entrances is artificial, then who built them? Are they recent? Are some artificial from some bygone age when Antarctica was not covered by ice, some civilization? Interestingly, the famous Pararesis map shows Antarctica without ice, suggesting that its ice sheets are geographically a recent phenomenon, something recent before the dawn of civilization. But I have more. I've got more proof. A lot more. Now, an extraordinary 2006 Russian documentary, and I have looked up the authenticity of all these things to find out exactly how they relate to my story, and even more so how they relate to these things that are found in Antarctica and the reason that Kerry went down there. And they've revealed new information about the U.S. Navy's Antarctica expedition in 46-47. It was called Operation High Jump. Go look that up. The naval expedition was headed by famed polar explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, whose expedition ended only after 8 weeks with many fatalities, according to the initial news reports. Rather than deny the heavy casualty reports, Admiral Byrd revealed in a press interview in Chile that his task force had encountered a new enemy that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds, and that he's seen these craft. That's Admiral Byrd. After the Soviet collapse in 91, the KGB released previously classified files that cast light on Operation High Jump, making them look somewhat fake. But we have done our homework here. A 2006 Russian documentary made public for the first time shows a 1947 secret Soviet intelligence report commissioned by Joseph Stalin of an Operation High Jump mission to Antarctica. The intelligence report, gathered from Soviet spies embedded in the United States, revealed that the U.S. Navy had sent the military expedition to find aliens. Really? Crashed flying saucer. On the way, they for sure encountered a mysterious UFO force that attacked the military expedition, destroying several ships and significant number of planes. Indeed, Operation High Jump had suffered many casualties, as stated in the initial press reports from Chile, where there is a possibility the report resulted from U.S. disinformation fed to a known Soviet operative, a Soviet MO. The more likely explanation is that the report exposes the first known historical incident involving a battle between U.S. naval forces and an unknown UFO force stationed in underground facilities in or near Antarctica about the time they were discovered. Something's down there, folks, and it's not real happy that we found it. John Kerry went down there to take a look at it. Just after I talked to my 2-star contact about this information, we discovered that serious cover-ups and even more cover-ups have been going on just after John Kerry's departure. These all being linked right out of the Office of Naval Intelligence. I can confirm that from my highest level sources that disinformation, not only about this visit, but about the set of emails, about things that Admiral Burt seen, and other items, including those numbers that I previously gave you, are all part of a grand conspiracy. Some of it is true, and much of it is disinformation. They want to throw you off track, and they don't want you to be able to separate the truth from the fiction. Now, this investigation took me in lots of different directions. Some of it was legitimate and some of it was not. This was the best the fake spread story has been able to present. And so I searched it up to see what truths could be found in it. And finding little, I wanted you to hear this false story so that you could see and seize the disinformation that I'm about to tell you, and how it has come directly out of the spin room from the Americans, not the Russians, and that the office of the NSA was directly involved in the disinformation stories published just after the visit as to confuse the masses. This is one of those, so observe this, because there is tiny grains of truth in this. I just want you to weed it out. Now, you've already heard the truth. You've already heard what I have exposed, that John Kerry did indeed go down there to see this place. Now, remember, this is most likely fake story and disinformation. And I indeed was able to track it back, this disinformation, to its sources and resource used by the NSA and Department of Naval Intelligence to various tabloids. Now, as you hear this versus the real story I just gave you earlier, you will understand they are in full cover-up mode, even passing this 35-year ban on the entire area, and that part is true. Now, there's a mind-boggling report circulating in the Kremlin today. It's prepared by the Ministry of Defense, the MOD, states that the sudden launching yesterday by aerospace forces 2 satellites are for the protection of the Federation Naval Research Vessel Admiral Belinsky, which has just departed the Saudi Arabian port of Jeddah after taking on board a mysterious object described as the Ark of Gabriel. And maybe you've heard some news about that recently. This is all tied in. This is all tied in with the Antarctica thing. Those whose importance is deemed so vital that President Putin has further ordered naval warships, guided missile cruiser Voryag, and the Bianchi class destroyer Bistri, and Boris Chilin class fleet oiler Boris Botama, and the powerful salvage tug Alatu, that upon ending their current mission in India, that they were to rendezvous with the Admiral Belinsky in the Southern Ocean, providing it protection as it sails to Antarctica. Now, according to this report, the unprecedented mission being undertaken by the Admiral Velasky research vessel began on 6 November when it departed from Kronstadt in the Federation's first Antarctic expedition in 30 years and described by the MOD as having such a intense critical military religious significance. Now, some of this is true, some of this isn't. Kind of read between the lines. Remember, this was put out by the U.S. Office of Naval Intelligence. Now, having read many stories by this reporter, some found with little or no evidence to sustain them, I discovered that this time she was indeed right, as something was for sure moved from Mecca, that the, quote, released information was said some kind of weapon of some kind. And indeed given to the Russians and their top secret research team to take it to the Vladimirsky to transport with the urgency this week to Antarctica. Really? Now, all this was just too fishy for me. Most of these Russian names too hard to even pronounce. It was so fishy that I just couldn't leave it alone, so I started a deep dig in all this, and everything that I could find out about this and what it was I found out so far. I'm telling you now. You can make up your own conclusions, but this is for sure something so sinister and so deep, you can well bet your bottom dollar that if both the United States and the Russia and Saudi have their hands in this, and it's big for sure and on the level. And by the way, those three nations also were the first three nations that signed the deal to keep people out of Antarctica for 35 years. Now, this strange series of seemingly linked news stories popped up recently about something called the Ark of Gabriel. It's referred to as Gabriel's instructions to Muhammad. We know that's fake. As you know, Gabriel was the one that appeared to the Virgin Mary and told her about the upcoming birth of Christ. We know that Gabriel didn't appear to any such person named Muhammad. But it's mentioned in conjunction with the mass deaths in Saudi Arabia, Russian military operations, secret bases in Antarctica, and most recently the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church. What is the Ark of Gabriel, and why is it suddenly in the news? More even why the dates John Kerry went there was the very same dates that this Russian fleet arrived. So I kept digging, and this is what I found out so far. While I've been able to substantiate references to the Ark of Gabriel, it seems to be a non-existent, whimsical fairy tale. But there are plenty of unsubstantiated tales about it, so many in fact that it's worth looking into. The most popular story is that the Archangel Gabriel, and this part is definitely a lie, who many believe told Mary that she would give birth to Jesus, as I said, and dictated the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. We know that's a lie. Also gave an ark to Muhammad, just as the ark of God gave the Ark of the Covenant to Jews. But supposedly Gabriel gave this ark to Muhammad to bury at a place of worship where it would not be removed until the end of the ages. Now, it's not in the same tone or even the same thing as the Ark of the Covenant, which is mentioned in the Christian Bible and in the Quran, but it's not the same. This is the Ark of Gabriel, not the Ark of the Covenant. Now, I called my contact in Israel and I asked him, and his response was, yes, it's real. I believe in the Ark of Gabriel, but it's really something else. You see, it's something not of God, like the Ark. Even the Israel High Command knows of its existence, but that it is not a thing of this world, but sure, not a thing of God either. That was my response. That's what I got. Now, that place of worship was believed to be the Grand Mosque there in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, where millions pilgrimage annually. It is the very same place that the Saudis boxed up and gave to the Russians this item to be sent to Antarctica to arrive at the very same time as John Kerry was there. Now, also remember, just a few months back, Obama was also reported to have visited this very site. Really? Although that meeting cannot be completely verified, and I have tried, it's just not verifiable. It's rumored from more than one government source, however. The Grand Mosque was being expanded in 2015 when on September 11th a crane fell, and why it fell on September 11th, who knows, but it was very fitting, killed 107 people, including the most of the construction crew. One rumor was that the construction crew had gotten too close with the crane to the Ark of Gabriel, and something triggered that supposed weapon that led to the deaths of thousands, with first-hand witnesses stating that they had seen the people killed by a plasma emission. I said, well, maybe the Department of Naval Intelligence is trying to get you to remember some movie scene. That's what it seemed like to me. Several hundred survivors whom were there that day, however, did say they felt electric current in the air and were dizzy from the smell of fresh ozone. This was on September 24th. Indeed, an estimated 4,000 worshipers were killed in what was officially called a stampede and unofficially called another plasma emission. Well, I've seen the video. It looked like stampede to me, but again, this is information linked directly by the Department of Naval Intelligence of the United States. And it linked that ark, or at least the area around the cube, to the Russians, to the visit to John Kerry, and to the helicopter visit to this area, this entryway that John Kerry supposedly went and seen. Now, there are dozens of first-hand accounts. Let's get back to the Mecca thing. There are dozens of first-hand accounts where those were said to be trampled were instead found with burnt marks on their skin and clothing, yet no fire was found or seen that day. Many, however, did report, including the crane operator, a purple haze that occurred at the same time. Whether that's disinformation, I do not know. That was, however, in Saudi newspapers. Story picks up in December 2015 when unconfirmed reports arose of the Russian naval research vessel Admiral Volensky arriving at the Saudi port of Jeddah, where the Saudis were asking at the time for them to be taken, for that weapon, that ark, to be taken to Antarctica for safekeeping, possibly to the so-called secret Nazi UFO base there that apparently the Russian government knows the location of. That too, I believe that to be complete bullcrap. Now, Russian ships were indeed seen, however, in the area at the time on maneuvers, and the Volensky had visited the Ross Sea, but reportedly for rest and recreation and supply replenishment. Since there is no base but only a small outpost that does not have any rest and recreation for Russian ships nor resupply, the story was all but buried as a lie. And I believe now that there is some truth, however, a grain of truth to the story that I've been able to fish out, but just not all of it. Most of it was fabricated. It's amazing how the Office of Naval Intelligence did that, how these crafty people are able to craft such fictitious things when they want to cover something up, that they make up all these stories so that every conspiracy theorist on earth will grab this section or that section and just run with it. I didn't do any of that. I presented you the real story, now I'm presenting you the fake one. After some serious research, I found that the Volensky at the Saudi port and on two high-level Saudi ministers meeting with the captain and an admiral, Russian admiral, on board, yet no one seen the ark being transferred back in December. It was the second visit on October 22nd that sparked my concern, however. This is the one that they tried to cover up. As by November 6th, this object had indeed been loaded, some object had been loaded, and was indeed in transit with the Russian fleet to a second trip to Antarctica. Now let's shift gears off this muzzy stuff and let's go for some hardcore facts that tie the real story, the fake story, all together, and you can look at this and be your own judge. Now, when you look on Google Earth, Antarctica has 3 blacked out spots. One of them was blacked out just recently, and this is some 40 clicks away from Ross Bay. This is definitely the one that I believe that John Kerry was ferried out to. Now, much of this information, as I told you, is fishy, and much of the official story about climate change and all this Muslim hocus pocus is even more stink bait. But I believe that we have been able to separate the fact from the fiction, or at least the fiction part. Well, let's consider this. Now, Obama may have visited not too long ago Antarctica, but there is no record but only of 2 congressmen who were supposed to play golf with the president saying he never showed. Now, this Ark of Gabriel killed a few hundred prior to the transfer. Who shut off the thing? Or who even knew how? What was really the angel Gabriel who gave Prophet Muhammad the Ark of Gabriel and said, hey, hide it and keep it in a well-hidden place until the end of times? Maybe it was a demon mimicking Angel Gabriel, and there are probably all kinds of thinking that is completely backwards, like I said, so be forewarned. Here are a lot of holes and unanswered questions in this seemingly linked series of events, starting with the unconfirmed story of the Ark of Gabriel and ending up why sworn enemies Russia and Saudi Arabia would be cooperating to protect a religious, quote, secret weapon. Why Russia would be transporting something to Antarctica on the very day Kerry arrived, where Kerry was going in the helicopter, the pictures and the emissions that were in the Peseta emails that Hillary wanted but couldn't because of classifications. As you remember, she was already under investigation from disclosing classified things, and she didn't want any more of that, so obviously that got nixed. But whether you believe any of this or all of it, it is a story worthy of a Dan Brown show for those that love the smell of conspiracy in the morning, something that Alex Jones would definitely pick up. Now, I today spoke with a Baptist pastor. I hope he's listening. Today at a devotional, he gave at a church that I often go to for various reasons, and he told me that he was convinced that other life may indeed be present elsewhere, and pointed to scriptures in the Bible concerning that in the universe, that it was just so vast, too large not to be mathematically possible. Didn't get a lot of time to speak with him before I was ushered elsewhere, but I agree, and I think that at some distant past, our own history on this planet, that we have indeed been visited by these ancient astronauts, and that this find down in Antarctica is somehow related. To me, as stated, as we are a small society, can only do so much research. I'm only a human, make a lot of mistakes, but I know what I found out. And I know that there is simply more than meets the eye going on here. And it is definitely related to these set of emails. And that disclosure is likely soon coming, and that I told you that it was coming here first. It is the perfect setup for the demons in the pit to mimic those ancient astronauts, these ancient malevolent ones that did perhaps come and pull a very fast one on humankind just in time for the New World Order and under satanic demonic rule. Regardless of the nature of things that creep in the night, whether it's Bigfoots, UFOs, aliens, Nibiru, Bible prophecy, or anything else, be aware the enemy has many stories to deceive you, and we are dedicated to help you find the way to the truth. Do your research, read your Bible, make up your mind. This is Mars with the Watchers Prophecy News. I'll see you on the way up.